CD. It's gonna be 5 at the door. All right, you're good. You go inside.
Hey, good morning. We're back. I've had a long 4, almost 5 months of kind of taking time away from this podcast, and I'm coming back with a bang. I have Phones with Chords here. Homie, welcome to the podcast. You've got some cool stuff coming out.
Oh, thanks, man.
It's funny. Feel like the first time that you and I talked was actually we found out that we do live pretty close to each other. Like we are both southern guys trying to do some music stuff.
Yeah. So you're in the Nashville area as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I am straight up in Hermitage, just staring at the Hermitage all day.
Oh man, I was actually over there this past weekend. My one of my daughters had a cross country meet at the Hermitage.
Incredible. That's so funny that we're just like, I mean, it's just like there's like, it's funny to feel like I'm in proximity of like, you know, I think there was a moment where like over the weekend where I was like, there's someone genius near me. Like, this is crazy. I'm feeling it. But you had a project. The first time I heard actually your project was when I was speaking with Ben from Place for Owls because of his thing that you did with Phones with Ben. That was such a cool, amazing project. How did y'all get connected?
It's so weird. I've done a couple podcasts recently, and it keeps coming up that Twitter is so
something else.
I know. How do I have any sense of community from people I know on Twitter? But I do. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I do.
It's wild. I think that's the only reason why, like, I've been connected with anyone in the music realm is strictly through Twitter. As much as it's a fucking hellhole, it is lovely, in fact, in this little community that we've made.
Yeah, I know. And I met Ben through Twitter. So I don't know, just kind of like we corresponded, and then he reached out, I guess it was 2 summers ago, and said, hey, would you ever want to collaborate? And so I just made a record on my own in this kind of long process for a year. And I was kind of starting on some new stuff, and I thought, yeah, why not? You know, so we instantly just started sending stuff back and forth, not in a plan of making an album. It was just like, let's do one song or let's whatever. And so he sent me like a Google Drive of like all these like piano instrumentals and like half songs, or it was like one verse or something like that. And then I just started pulling them into Logic and splicing them up. And some of them were like almost, we're pretty much completely done, and I didn't do anything. I just kind of added some stuff. But
I love that. It sounds like it was just like totally collaborative. It was just like this kind of thing that just kind of formed itself like out of space and time, and suddenly gained matter and like in weight and gravity. And because I feel like that's kind of something that you sing a lot about. There's like, as I was going through your records today, like, there's such a weight to your music. Like I like literally just going through, starting with Cut the Kid, and somebody had to like, there's something, it reminds me of like this wonderful cross between like, what if Sufjan Stevens was in Volcano Choir? Like there's there's like, instead of Bon Iver, like let's do a little bit more weighty kind of like existential stuff. It's so beautiful, dog. Like I think that your music is just like it's touching. It's precious. It's
Thank
so
you.
cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it's weird you said weighty. One time, it's like years ago, this guy came up to me. I was playing a house show, and he said, he's like, have you ever written a song that's not serious? And I was just like, what kind of, I didn't even know how to answer. I was like, what do you want me to like write jingles or something? I didn't know. It's like, I don't know. And he was kind of saying what you were saying, but almost like it was a negative thing. And I thought, well, I mean, I'm not trying to be like super uber, I'm not sitting down and like, okay, what are the most serious topics that I can tackle? I'm not doing
Yeah,
that.
well, this is what spills out. Like,
yeah, exactly.
So like I kind of relate to that because I write what seems to be unserious stuff. And, and I was actually talking to my wife about it. She was like, well, yeah, no, lyrically, if you just look at your lyrics, yeah, sure. You could do like this thing, but the music that you write is like all fast and upbeat. So it like pulls the unseriousness out of it. But like, that's just kind of what happens. That's how it spills out. And so like, I think that it's not like even when you are unserious, this is just what happens. You pull this out and actually, that's actually a good question. Do you listen to stuff like this just all the time? Or do you listen to kind of everything?
I am so all over the map as far as music. I listen to all kinds of stuff, and I'm big into hip hop, and like, so I feel like it's so weird because I think sometimes, like, if I meet someone that has maybe been into a record of mine or something, I almost like when we meet, I almost think that they think I'm gonna be like crying in the corner or something, like, but I don't. And then like I'm a complete goofball. Like, I mean, I'm just like kind of a crazy dude as far as like, I mean, like humor and stuff. And so it's funny. It's like, I don't really feel like my music, I feel like is trying to really get at something, this ache that is within all of us that I feel like is there. And I'm really kind of like scratching that. I'm really like clawing on that door. And that's just naturally what happens when I make music. But I mean, that's just such a small part of who I am as a person. And so beyond that, it's like, I'm like if you ask my kids, they're going to be like, dad's a goofball, so it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm the classic dad joke, learn the new slang terms, misuse them in conversations.
Incredible.
Like I am.
I love it because there's something, it's funny. It's like, everyone has to kind of go through like their own biases and stuff. So it's like, I sat all morning listening to your music and including the new stuff from, The Speed of Time. Totally. I had to be like, okay, what are my assumptions of this person? I think I have to ricochet away from this is not a guy crying in the corner. This is a guy probably that this is like, of all the sides of the totem pole, I'm seeing a fucking little sliver where like, hey, this is the stuff that spills out and this is the side that lets that stuff spill out. I love that because it's really important to like, I think that you are trying to see as much of the totem pole as possible.
Yeah, and I think like I obviously my taste in stand-up comedians and different things like that, like that's not being put out there for the world to see, as opposed to when you put out music, whether you realize it or not, your influences are there. They seep into the kind of music you make, and so it's like we're all just very complex people, and we've got all different sides of us. And I think just for me, the acceptance of, okay, when I make music, I tend to kind of want to go to this certain place, and that's okay. And it just happens that this medium is something that's preserved like through albums. They get preserved and they're, so that for me, it kind of documents that part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But as opposed, I mean, to kind of compare that to other parts of my life where it's like, okay, well, my goofy side is probably documented with all the dumb selfies that I've taken or or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
it's just
like,
the other sides.
Yeah, exactly. So it just happens to be that I think the way I'm wired to create musically just happens to kind of like lend itself to a more of a, I don't know, somber tone. But I think like with the stuff I'm making now, especially this new record that's about to come out, like I feel like I've really pushed myself to just open up. And that's why I did these 3 records, like the one with Ben and the other 2 I did on my own. It just they kind of have a same kind of thread to them. And then this 4th record, I was just like, I just want to do something completely different.
I love that.
Yeah.
So let's kind of go through like kind of your arc then.
So,
okay. Being a part of DIY and being a part of like being a musician, like labelless, everything, there's I find it very, very difficult. I find it really, really straining. I think that there's a lot of I think it's a separate life that you have to live and you have to dedicate a lot of time to it, even though you don't have a whole lot of time. And it sounded like having kids and work and life and everything. What made you kind of like the gravity towards starting this project? Like in 2020, was this the COVID thing? Like where everyone was like trapped inside and said, well, I've got a fucking guitar and I've got to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did music under my own name for years. And so then 2020, 2021, I just decided I was just kind of like, first of all, the overhead and just, being around Nashville and trying to record here and do anything here, it is just like the way that and nothing against it, but the way that a lot of how the community works here it's just a very cost, like the overhead is very high in trying to do it kind of the Nashville way. And so in my 20s and stuff, when I was starting doing music and stuff, I just thought, okay, well, I got to go do this, hire this producer or do this or what, and I just kind of listened to what I heard. And then honestly, it took me really 20 plus years, to kind of realize, okay, I've kind of done that. I've come back around and it's like, I think I just want to do it for me. And I think I want to do it in my own house. And so that's how I kind of stumbled into kind of the whole DIY scene. Was I just thought, okay, well, I've got this one preamp and I've got this crappy computer. I'm just going to see what I can do with just these tools.
I love that.
Yeah. And so like I said, I just stumbled on the Twitter and the kind of the DIY scene there and just realizing like, okay, like, it's normal to just have this crappy preamp and one amp. Like, I love this.
I think that that's the glow of Nashville blinds you from what is truly actually acceptable and like the subjectiveness of like what, you don't have to use Pro Tools. You don't have to use $25,000, speakers in order to mix and master. You don't have I've talked to so many people, and I think I'm so happy to talk to more Nashville people because I think that Nashville removes kind of the DIY-ness. Yes, there's great DIY stuff here, but like the gravity is that you have to do that specific way, and that's where that's the $1 million records, that's the $50 million records, and I love the people that are like in their house doing this because they have to, rather than them saying that I have to do this because I'm trying to get a fucking paycheck. Or no, I'm letting it spill the fuck out of me because it has to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really where I'm at. Is like, I realized that's all I ever wanted was just to kind of to write songs and to make albums and just to do it for the love of it. And Now I just feel like, man, I feel so, the satisfaction that I feel right now just in making records in my house. And then like I worked really closely this time around with Nick Weber, from A Place for Owls also.
Mm-hmm.
And he mixed and, mastered this album and it's co-producer, but I wish I had another term for it. I don't know. Like he was just like this. It was so many things, sounding board, and he saw the songs from the whole, like from the acoustic demo to the full thing. And so, I've realized that I like being able to collaborate with people, but not like Nashville in the same room with 5 other people trying to write a song that even one person shouldn't write.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I like that space where it's like, okay, I work on something, and then I send it, I bounce a thing over, and then I get feedback, and then I send back and I work more. I like that give and take, as opposed to like us, like we've got to be in a room and think on the fly and all that. And I feel like I can do that, but it takes more out of me, just personally, than the kind of postal service, I guess, model.
Yeah, I think that there is, when I started, so I've been like a music guy like my whole life. And when I was in Iowa City, I'm from Iowa. And so when I was growing up, I was around, like, for some fucking reason, there was just all these great musicians. And I didn't shine. I didn't want to shine. I was fine with it. And I came here, and then during COVID, I started stuff. And then, I remember my wife asked me, she was just like, well, why? Like, I want to make sure that you're not doing this for like a selfish reason. And I was like, I had to like really think about that, because like I look at this community, and I think it's this community that kind of solved that issue for me, where it's like, I didn't know. I just wanted to see, like, I wanted to try something. Right. And, just see how, when you speak out to the abyss, what does the abyss speak back to? Right. And, and it's really cool to see you kind of going, okay, cool. I'm going to just pivot from this, the well-paved road, right? Yeah. So like to kind of wander on yourself, but still having to make music and still want, like, do you perform? Are you performing, or are you just letting it spill out and you're just catching it?
Yeah. So I haven't done a single show as Phonewithchords. I don't really have a plan to do. I actually there was a festival in West Virginia that invited me to play, and it got canceled, and that was going to be my first show. But it's like, okay. Here's the thing with performing at this point where I'm at. When it got canceled, I was a little bummed.
Yeah.
But just personally, just like I was felt like forced myself to perform years ago, because it was told to me, well, this is how you make a name for yourself. You get out on the road and you do, you got a tour and all that. And so I did that for years. And now, after I stepped away from that, I realized I'm not really passionate about performing. It's really about the creation and making the thing, and also releasing the thing and but it's not, I don't really at this point in my life really have a passion to get out and like book a tour or anything.
I think that's beautiful, because it's like, listen, the chase that you're chasing, like the thing that you're chasing is strictly just the music. And like, think that, why do you think that, is it in ricocheting away from the Nashville thing? Or do you think it's just a personal thing where you're like, listen, I'll never stop, and I can't stop. So I'll just let this part be its own little bubble. And like, is the weird part releasing, where you're like, I love writing and recording and all this stuff, but then you're like, oh, and then I've got to then I've got to fucking put it on Bandcamp, and I've got to remember all my passwords, and like I got to do emails, and then like it's just like that weird 5% where it's like okay, and that's probably the only part that is like kind of a bummer, right?
Well, I think so. Just to kind of do like an overview of the process from like writing the song, demoing it on my phone, which that's kind of where the name Phonewithchords came from. It's just like I've got a bunch of
perfect,
bunch of like riffs on my phone. It was just like a funny, stupid little name, but anyway. But then like from that to recording it to playing the instruments to getting it and then getting mixed and mastered, every part of that process I'm in absolute love with. I love it. I could do it all day. Even putting music out. I'm like, the record's coming out Friday. I am so pumped to get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
But then where my mind and I just start to kind of almost like flinch a little is just the idea of going, okay, well, now I got to climb into a van with 4 other people and do 40-day, I don't know, just some outlandish thing and kill myself and go into debt.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, so that's where it all dies for me. But like, I will say, like, I do you said the Nashville thing. So the part of me of the performing is that I just realized after I stepped away from it, and just through therapy and everything's realizing how I'm wired. And I'm the kind of person that goes to a party and then needs the weekend to get over going to the party, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So, like it just takes a lot out of me to like feel like I'm on. And so I realized that when I was performing, it's like, even though it's an hour, but it's like, I am just like being my most extroverted self.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would just feel completely exhausted afterwards. And then like, wonder why that is. And like I said, through therapy and stuff, I realized like, oh, well, I'm kind of wired to like be energized being away from people as opposed to being with people. Yeah. So.
I think it's so funny. I've always heard the term with that is about cost. What is those things? Do they cost or are you like buying? Right. So like when I'm performing, like I'm buying for some reason, it works. It lifts me up. But some people like my wife, doesn't want to go to the grocery store. It costs her. So like it costs you to get on stage to do that thing. And it's just, there's we're not in the budget for that.
I do think in a sense that it will come back around.
Sure.
I do. But I think right now in my life, like I've got like 3 kids in high school and, I mean, it's like, it's all hands on deck, like my oldest is a senior and about to graduate and all that. So it's like, I feel like we're in a transition period and I feel like to try to like devote mental energy and physical energy to playing would just, it wouldn't do me any good. Probably wouldn't do my kids any good. So I think really just I'm going, okay, well, maybe once kids are kind of like off doing their thing, maybe that'll be something that I'll return to. And I'm open to it. I just know so. I
like that. So there's the one thing I like to talk to with a bunch of artists is like, when you're not, I don't want to talk to people that are on Rolling Stone. I don't want to talk to people that are on number 1 on Spotify or whatever, because I feel like that their lives are interesting, but not interesting in the way that I like it, where there's 2 lives that we lead. So tell me kind of about the life that is outside of Phonewithchords. Like, what do you do for a job? What is your kind of like day to day living in the Nashville area, but also doing this cool little side project?
Yeah. So I am, I don't talk about it a lot, but I am a teacher. So that's what I do for my day job. So So yeah, so I work in education, and then so you can imagine that kind of, it's
Did you do that
kind
for
of a.
COVID?
Oh yeah, so I've worked in education for a long time. So yeah, I
Incredible.
worked through. Yeah, so it was. Yeah, I could tell you
Yeah, I
some
bet you have like
popular
decades of
stories.
stories.
Yeah, I mean, it made that time feel like, I mean, we talk about it like, it was like, okay, this is 3 years, but it feels like 15.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that's my day job. And my life feels very, segmented, or like that's just work, and like
Hmm.
work is work. And within that sphere, like I do the things I need to do, and I hopefully do my job well and all that.
Hmm.
And then outside of that, like I feel like, obviously my family and all that. And then music is another big part, but it's more, as I've realized, I think it's chiefly for me to start out.
Hmm.
And then I think the kind of overflow of the processing that I get through making music, that's obviously is where it spills over into actually releasing albums instead of
Hmm.
just like, just putting stuff on my hard drive and never sharing. So yeah, so that's kind of my life. Like it's weird. I don't have, and again, I feel like I'm going to therapy all the time, but it's like,
Yeah.
I talk to my therapist and I'm like, oh, my life is very just, okay, I've got my work and I've got my music and I've got my
Hmm.
family, and there's not a lot of crossover.
Yeah. I think
You
there's
know?
there you have your holy trinity. Like there is like
Yeah.
this really really nice compartmentalized
Yeah.
do you ever heard the term of a third space?
I have, but explain it to me, because I'm not,
So
I've heard
like
it.
there's
Yeah.
work, and then there's home, and then there's
Yes.
a third place, like a third space.
Yes.
So a
Okay.
lot of
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
find their third place at like a bar, or like
Yeah.
there's a third place at like basketball court, or like this thing where
Yeah.
I think that like everyone's third place is different, and everyone's third place is okay and valid, and everyone can do whatever you
Yeah.
want. But it seems like I like that your third place is like a thing that you do. Like
Yeah.
that's so like I think poignant and really fun for me, because I think that's true for me. I work at home, so like I'm in my house,
Yeah.
like, and then so my first, second, and third place are just here.
Oh man, dude,
It's
that's tough.
a thing, but if you
Yeah.
separate it by rooms, then you're good.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, I think it's weird because I don't like, at school. I like, some people know that I do music and stuff, but I don't ever talk about it, just because it's like, I love that third place thing. I'm going to explore that, because that's very helpful for me, because there's a little bit where I thought, well, why do I not tell people about the third place? But then I thought,
Yeah,
well, no, this third place is safe and I want to keep it that way.
it's
And
yours.
so it's mine. And so it's just like, let it be what it is.
Hmm.
And it's like not something that I've like got to like go to work or go to the grocery store and like, you don't know about my third place? Like, why would I
Yeah.
do that? Like, yeah. So yeah, it's very helpful. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
I think it's really important, and then like, absolutely. I think it's really, really cool that you compartmentalize, because I think it's really important to do that, because some things don't
Mhm.
need to spill over. Like
Yeah.
my wife doesn't want to hear my demos all the time. That's fine. That's fine.
Oh, I
I'm
love
excited
that.
about it.
Okay. All right. So so my wife is very similar. Like I don't ever really talk about, like she gives me the space and the
Mhm.
time to do the music.
Yes.
And then every now and then, she's a big like driving at dusk kind
Hmm.
of person. Let's go for a drive and the sun's going down and stuff. And so sometimes on those drives, we'll just drive these back roads. And she's like, "Hey, do you have any music to play for me?" And I'm sometimes, but I will only play stuff that's like almost completely done. I never
Yeah.
would send her like an early demo, but she'd be
Hmm.
like, "What is this?" Like,
Yeah. I think that you and I are very similar. Like my wife
yeah,
doesn't want to hear me practicing. She doesn't want to hear me stopping and then starting that line. No, hold on, wait, and then wait. And I think it's this. Oh, I messed up. There's a lot. I think those kind of. I'm fascinated by behind the scenes shit when it comes to like these lives that everyone lives, and so it sounds like it's. I find yours very familiar. And that's so cool. So we got like a little bit of time left. I want to talk about the new record. So kind of tell me what the new record is about.
So it's called The Speed of Time. And I started writing it this past, like over the kind of Christmas break, just because I was just trying to process the idea of my kids getting older. There's this moment, I think, as a parent where you're just trucking along, and then all of a sudden you're like, it's like 3 years left, they're about, and it is not that they're just like leaving, but it's just like, what happened? Where did all this time go? And, so I was just trying to process that. And I wrote a couple songs on an electric guitar, which I don't normally do. Like, my brother let me borrow like this guitar he wasn't using. And then it just unlocked something. Because I literally already, like Nick Weber and I were already going to do this other record, and I'd send him some demos, and he'd even like kind of like played on one song. And then I wrote these songs, and then I was like, dude, I don't know what's going on, but I just feel like we need to chase this.
Amazing.
I was writing like over a span of like 2 weeks, like 10 to 15 songs.
Insane.
Was just like going, and I was telling somebody else the other day, I feel like, and you may probably relate, there's songs that like unlock a room where there are like 20 other songs waiting.
Oh yeah, you're pulling the book out, and there's it's actually like the fake bookshelf, and you had no idea there's a room behind there, and it's just like flooding you. Yeah, 100%.
Yes. So for this record, that's exactly. There's one song that is not even on this record. It's not probably going to be on a record, but that song opened the door to all, like literally every other song on this album, and so I just started sending Nick stuff, and he's like, I'm loving this. Let's do it. He's like, this is totally different, but let's run with it. And so, so I just started writing on those themes of kind of the passage of time and the fragile nature of life, and how things, like, you're not guaranteed in a day. I mean, that things, you don't know when it's your last day, so I was just having a lot of those type thoughts. And then like take that with, I got really into the Beatles and Beach Boys.
Incredible. Incredible.
So take that, and two, just like the Beatles are, besides Taylor Swift, are the only band that we can all agree on in the car to listen to.
Sure.
Usually we can't. Someone wants to listen to something and it's like 3 out of 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like we can't agree. But sometimes we will literally just look at each other and go, just put on some Beatles. We can all agree.
Yeah. I like that, because you're absolutely right. It's like a good baseline. And I think it's it's been the world's baseline for like 40 years.
Yeah, it continues to be. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
So I think part of me was like, okay, I'm dealing with these things, like just thinking about my kids. And then I was just like, well, what if I like leaned into that style as almost like a further nod to them? And then that was just like, oh, okay. Yeah. So then I was just like doubling the hell out of some harmonies and like doing all this stuff.
Incredible. I love that so much, because it's like, as soon as you find like when you're climbing the mountain, there's another rule, again, more 3 stuff, but like you have to have 3 holds before you move. So it's like, there is, when writing, if you have like an inspiration of like or through a lens of like a band, I feel like it's a really good hold point where I feel like it's going to create a little bit more inspiration if you're like, oh, no, I want to do something through this. And so that's really, really cool that you did a whole record through that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not something I ever thought I would make.
Sure.
But I think once I just leaned into it, then I felt like I was able to kind of like figure out, okay, well, I don't want to just do like obviously copycat or like I didn't want it to be like an homage, just like, oh, okay, here's my Beatles album. You know, I didn't want it to be like that. But once I was okay with letting some influence show, then I feel like my kind of like creativity and my like who I am as a writer started to come out. And so I think the end result is not, it's obviously not like my Let It Be or whatever, like I feel like it ends up being just me, but with those influences.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
So I want to play. So this is going to come out on Friday. So when people are listening to this, your record is going to be out. What song do you want to hear in the middle of the podcast?
Yeah. Can I do a deep cut?
Please.
I feel like
Please. And then send it over to me so I can edit it with it before it comes out. Yeah,
for sure. Okay. Yeah. It's called, That's Just Part of It. I'll send it to you. It's kind of like, I feel like it's what we just talked about with the harmonies and the influences all in one. Yeah.
Incredible. Okay. So here is That's Just Part of It. Arthur, thank you so much for jumping on with me.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really like hyped to be back doing this podcast and talking to you. Made me feel pretty inspired to kind of keep going and doing this. So we're gonna
that's awesome.
Everyone check out the new record. It's obviously it's incredible. Homie is so talented. But everyone have a wonderful rest of your day. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Man.
And we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Take care, man.
Take care.
Bye.